It's no secret that getting into medical school is extremely difficult, and for our friends up north in Canada, unfortunately, it's even more difficult, with there only being 17 medical schools in Canada currently, compared to around 154 medical schools in the United States. It doesn't take a genius to know that getting into a medical school in Canada is nearly impossible, which is why I wanted to make this video, because I know a lot of you out there are from Canada and you're struggling to get into medical school in your own country. And so hopefully after watching this video, you guys will have a little bit more clarity on how to get into a US-based medical school. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Michael. I'm a first-year DO medical student, and like many of you, I struggled to get into medical school. Now, I'm not from Canada, I'm from here in the United States, but even so, I struggled to get into medical school, so I know what you guys are feeling, and hopefully after watching this video, you guys will have a little bit more hope on getting into medical school. Now, let's just first talk about why it's so difficult for Canadian students to get into medical school. So the first thing is, Canada only has around 17 medical schools, and you guys have a ton of applicants, which is exactly why your acceptance rate in Canada is between 10 and 20%. That's leaving at least 3/4 of you guys not getting into medical school in Canada. And so for every 5 to 6 Canadian applicants applying to a Canadian school, maybe one of you will get into a Canadian medical school. So I understand why you guys are trying to go to medical school in the United States. We not only have a better acceptance rate, which really isn't saying much, because our acceptance rate in the United States is only around 40 to 46% on any given year. But we also have around 155 medical schools currently. That number is constantly going up, which is not only beneficial for you guys in Canada, but also for us here in the United States. And so after doing a little bit of research on some of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this video, I really wanted to create a Canadian-friendly US medical school list for you guys. But every time I went to a different site, it was like there were different schools on the list. And so I went to the medical school admissions requirements page on the AAMC website. And this page is pretty cool because it gives you a list of all of the US medical schools. And then you can search by in-state, out-of-state, international student friendly, Canadian friendly, public versus private schools. And so what I recommend for you guys, instead of me giving you guys a list, which would probably take a while, but because it seems like there are a lot of Canadian-friendly medical schools here in the United States, or at least they claim to be Canadian-friendly, I'll put the link of this website down below. So go to that website, check the box that says Canadian, and a bunch of medical schools will come up. Now you can then narrow it down to public versus private. And I would highly recommend looking more into the private schools because they don't have an obligation to take in-state residents. The other thing with private schools is the way they get their funding. Now, I'm not 100% clear on if Canadian students can get financial aid here in the United States, but I think you guys have a much better shot at getting financial aid if you go to a private medical school. Now, the other recommendation that I would give to you guys is to look into DO medical schools, because DO medical schools are much more likely to look at you holistically. And that's actually a really big key if you're coming from Canada. DO medical schools are just known for taking more non-traditional students. And since you guys aren't technically from the United States, it's just going to be a little bit easier for you guys to get into like a DO private medical school. Now, the medical school that I currently attend here in Kansas City, I've actually met quite a few Canadian residents. And so I know for sure that this school is very Canadian friendly. And so I'm just assuming that other DO private medical schools are also going to be very Canadian friendly. The other thing that you guys should keep in mind is when you're applying to a medical school here in the United States, there are some medical schools that will consider Canadian residents as out-of-state residents. And so what that means is you're not going to be put in that category as an international student, but you're going to be put in that category as an out-of-state resident. And so even though you're from Canada, you're still going to be put in that pile with other US applicants that aren't from the state where that medical school is located. So when you guys are searching for which schools to apply to, look for private medical schools, DO medical schools, and then medical schools that take out-of-state residents. Now, I wouldn't just look for a school that simply takes out-of-state residents, but you're going to want to look for a school that the majority of their students are from out-of-state, because there are a lot of like state-funded medical schools that do accept out-of-state residents, but they only take like maybe 15% of their class is from out-of-state. And they're certainly not going to fill those spots with people that aren't from the United States. Now, let me be extremely clear about what I'm about to say, because getting in to a US medical school is difficult for US residents. Now, since you guys are coming from Canada, it's going to be even more difficult and even more competitive, which is why you guys need to make sure that your science GPA and your MCAT score are above the average. This is extremely cruel in my opinion, but in order for you guys to have a shot at getting into a US medical school and essentially taking the spot that a US resident could potentially have, you're gonna really have to be a competitive applicant. You're gonna have to have a great science GPA and a really good MCAT score. Now, that's really not to say that if you have some really average stats that you can't get into a US medical school. It's just gonna be even more difficult the further you are from the average GPA here in the United States and the average MCAT score. Now, one really good alternative for Canadian students wishing to go to a US medical school is looking into a special master's program here in the United States. Special master's programs are primarily for students with lower GPAs that need to prove to the medical schools that they can handle a rigorous curriculum. And so even if you guys have a decent science GPA, but you're coming from Canada, this is a great way for you guys to get a foot in the door. It's going to be much easier for you guys to get accepted into a special master's program than it is for you guys to get a direct acceptance into medical school. So apply to a special master's program at one of those DO private medical schools, crush the program, get an interview for the medical school, and then get in the following year. I know it's not the easiest route, and it's not the route that everybody wants to take. I certainly did not want to spend the extra money doing a special master's program. I didn't want to lose an extra year doing the special master's program, but ultimately it helped me get into medical school. And if doing a special master's program can help you guys coming from Canada get into a US medical school, then basically that's going to be your best option to getting into a US medical school. So guys, if you have any additional questions, drop them down in the comments. I really hope that this video helped you guys out even just a little bit. I know it's difficult to get into medical school, and I know it's even more difficult as a Canadian applicant. But if you guys really want to become a physician, then there's nothing out there that's gonna stop you. And there's always a way to accomplish your guys' goal. And so with that being said, guys, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel, give this video a like, and I hope to see you guys in my next video.